I, female, 42, confronted my husband, male, 44, about stealing our kids' college funds for his affair. Now he's gone and threatening me. Throwaway for obvious reasons. I've been a long-time lurker, but never thought I'd be posting my own problems here. So I guess I should start with some background. I've been married to my husband Michael for almost 20 years. Our anniversary is in 3 months, or was, I guess. We have 2 kids, Chelsea, female, 17, and Adam, male, 15. I used to be an accountant before I became a stay-at-home mom when Chelsea was born. Michael was a financial planner at this really prestigious firm in our city. He's always handled all our finances because, it's literally his job and I trusted him completely. Yeah, I know how stupid that sounds now. We've had this pretty normal upper-middle-class life. Nice house in a good neighborhood, kids in good schools, regular vacations, etc. For over 10 years, we've had this tradition of Sunday dinners at Michael's parents' house. Martha and Russ, they're in their late 60s, early 70s. They're actually pretty wealthy, like wealthy, not just comfortable. They've always been super generous with the kids, especially with contributing to their college funds that Michael set up when they were born. So anyway, about 6 months ago, I started noticing some changes in Michael. He was working later than usual, being weird about his phone, taking it to the bathroom, never leaving it out, password changed, going on these weekend business trips that seemed to pop up out of nowhere. And he stopped being interested in family stuff, like he missed Adam's soccer championship and made up some excuse about work emergencies. I honestly, stupidly, didn't think too much of it at first because his firm had merged with this bigger company, and he kept saying how much pressure he was under. I even suggested we try marriage counseling back in January because we barely talked anymore, but he got super defensive and said we were fine and I was overreacting. Side note, I'm an idiot for not pushing harder on this. I actually thought, God, this is embarrassing. I thought maybe he was planning some surprise for our anniversary. We've never been huge on celebrating anniversaries, but 20 years is a big one, right? I literally convinced myself that was why he was being secretive. I'm cringing typing this. So what finally made me suspicious enough to actually look into things was Chelsea's college applications. She's been working on them since school started, and we were talking about finances. I realized I hadn't seen any statements for the kids' college funds in ages. Michael always said he got electronic statements to save trees, eye roll, and that everything was performing great. Last week, while Michael was in the shower, a really long shower, wonder why, I opened his laptop. He'd left it logged in, which never happens. I was just going to check the college fund accounts, but then this text notification popped up on the screen with a heart emoji and "miss you baby" from someone named Natasha. I felt sick. I clicked on the messages. Yes, I snooped, sue me, and found hundreds of texts between them going back months. Explicit conversations, photos. She's his administrative assistant, by the way. She's 31. I felt like I was going to throw up, but I still needed to check the college accounts. I somehow managed to find them in his bookmarks. Thank God he's organized at least. And when I logged in, guys, I was shocked. Over the past year, there had been withdrawals totaling $145,000. $145,000 from our children's college funds. I spent the next week investigating everything. I used to be an accountant, remember? So I went through everything I could access, credit card statements, bank records, everything, and it was all there. Michael had been spending insane amounts of money on this Natasha woman. Cartier jewelry, weekends at these ridiculous resorts, designer clothes, and this is what really got me. He helped her with a down payment on a condo. A freaking condo. I found a receipt for a $2,800 dinner at this restaurant downtown that I had mentioned wanting to try for my birthday last year. Michael told me it was too expensive, and we went to Cheesecake Factory instead. I'm not kidding. I wish I was. I printed everything. Bank statements, screenshots of texts, credit card bills, hotel receipts. I made spreadsheets showing the timeline of withdrawals matched with purchases and hotel stays. I even told my friend Diane some of what I found, and she seemed really concerned. I thought at first she was judging me for not paying attention to our finances, but I realize now she was worried about me because I was acting scary calm about the whole thing. So yesterday was Sunday dinner at Martha and Russ's house. I decided that was the moment. I brought my folder of evidence and acted completely normal through dinner. When Martha started asking about Chelsea's college applications and mentioned scholarships, I asked Michael about the withdrawals from the children's accounts. He tried to dismiss it as market fluctuations and changed the subject. I put my folder on the table and started passing out the bank statements. Martha asked what the documents were, and I explained they showed Michael had been taking money from our children's college funds. Russ started looking at the papers and asked Michael what the withdrawals were for. I showed them all the evidence. The credit card statements showing jewelry purchases, hotel stays, and restaurant bills. Michael claimed they were business expenses that would be reimbursed. So I showed them the text messages and photos between him and Natasha. Michael tried to say his phone was hacked, so I showed them photos of him and Natasha together at a resort in Cabo charged to our joint credit card. Russ got really angry and told Michael he was disgusted by his behavior. Martha started crying about the grandkids' future. Michael tried to blame me, saying I'd been cold and distant, but Russ wouldn't let him blame me for his own moral failings. Michael stormed out. When I got home, he was packing a bag. He started yelling at me for humiliating him in front of his parents. He said I would regret this, that I had no idea what I'd done, and that I'd be fucking sorry. He left and immediately started sending threatening texts. Stuff like, "You've ruined everything and you'll pay for this and you have no idea what's coming." I turned my phone off after that. I'm scared but also weirdly relieved. Like the truth is finally out there. I slept with my bedroom door locked last night. The kids were at friends' houses and are coming home today, and I have no idea what to tell them. I'm still in shock, I think. 20 years together and this is how it ends. With him stealing from our kids to fund his midlife crisis affair with a woman 11 years younger than me. Edit. A lot of people are asking if I've contacted a lawyer. Not yet, but I will today. Martha texted me this morning and said they want to help financially if needed. I'm not sure how to feel about that. Edit 2. For those asking about the kids, no, they don't know anything yet. They're coming home from their friends' houses in a few hours, and I have to figure out what to tell them. Chelsea will be devastated. She and Michael have always been close, and Adam already has anxiety issues, so I'm really worried about him. Edit 3. Somebody asked about joint accounts. Yes, unfortunately, we have joint checking savings. I'm going to the bank first thing tomorrow. I didn't even think about that until someone mentioned it. Thank you. Edit 4. To answer the many people asking if I suspected the affair before finding the texts, I think part of me did. There were definitely signs I ignored. The late nights, the business trips that were always last minute, the way he'd get defensive if I asked simple questions about his schedule. I just didn't want to believe it, I guess. Edit 5. Thank you for all the support. I honestly didn't expect this much attention. I'm trying to read all the comments, but it's overwhelming. I broke down crying like 4 times today. The reality of everything is finally hitting me, and I don't know how I'm going to do this. Now for the first update. So a lot has happened since my last post. Like, a lot. After Michael stormed out Sunday night, I was honestly terrified he might come back. I locked myself in our bedroom and dug out my old softball bat from college. I basically just stared at the ceiling and jumped at every noise outside. I had turned my phone off after all those threatening texts from Michael. When I finally turned it back on Monday morning, I had 40+ missed calls and so many texts I couldn't even count them. 15 from Michael, starting with stuff like, "You'll regret this," and slowly turning into, "Please, baby, I'm sorry." 9 from Martha, getting increasingly worried. 8 from Russ, all some version of "call us immediately." 5 from Michael's brother Dave, who was like, "What the hell happened?" Plus random ones from friends who somehow already knew something had happened. I seriously thought Martha and Russ were calling to yell at me, like maybe Michael had convinced them I was making everything up or something, or maybe they were going to try to get me to forgive him for the sake of the family, or whatever. I was honestly scared to call them back. The kids were coming home that morning, and I had no idea what to tell them. How do you tell your kids their dad stole their future and has been cheating on their mom? Chelsea got home first, and I could tell right away she knew something was wrong. Adam came home like an hour later, and I sat them both down in the living room. I tried to stay calm and just explain the basics without going into all the gross details. I said Dad and I were having serious problems, that he'd been dishonest about money, including their college funds, and that he wasn't staying at the house right now. Chelsea immediately asked if he was cheating, and I couldn't lie to her. She's 17, not a baby. Chelsea was furious. Like, I've never seen her so angry. She kept saying things like, "How could he do this to us? And I hate him," and started crying. Adam just got really quiet, which honestly worried me more. He asked where Dad was staying, and I had to say I didn't know. I think I handled it pretty well with them, all things considered. I stayed calm and answered their questions honestly without bad-mouthing Michael. I told them we'd figure everything out together. After the kids went to their rooms, I finally called Martha back. I was expecting her to be mad or disappointed or something negative, but as soon as she answered, she was sobbing and apologizing to me for Michael's behavior. She said she and Russ had been up all night and needed to see me right away. They wanted me to come over to their house as soon as possible. I dropped the kids at my friend Diane's house and drove over to Martha and Russ's place. I had to pull over on the way because I suddenly couldn't stop crying. I sat in my car for like 15 minutes just sobbing like an idiot, wondering how we ended up here. When I got to Martha and Russ's house, I was relieved not to see Michael's car anywhere. Martha opened the door looking like she hadn't slept in days. She hugged me immediately and was still all red-eyed from crying. Russ came out of his study with this older guy I'd never seen before, and Martha led us all to the dining room. There were papers everywhere spread across the table. I immediately asked if they were mad at me for how I handled everything, and Russ got this really serious look and said, "Absolutely not. We're grateful you had the courage to show us the truth." Martha explained they'd been up all night with their attorney. The older guy introduced himself as Curtis and said he'd been their family attorney for like 30+ years. I was honestly confused about why they needed a lawyer involved. Russ explained they'd spent the night rewriting their will. Martha jumped in and said Michael had proven he couldn't be trusted with family money. Curtis explained they had removed Michael as the primary beneficiary of their estate. Russ said Chelsea and Adam would now be direct beneficiaries through some kind of trust. And then Martha, still crying, added that they had included ME in the will too. I immediately protested because that felt way too much. But Russ literally held up his hand and was like, "It's already done. The papers have been filed." Then Curtis handed me his business card, plus another one for someone named Dean, who apparently is like the best divorce attorney in the state. Martha said they wanted to pay for everything. I hadn't even thought about divorce yet. Russ was super gentle but also very firm, saying I needed protection from Michael immediately. Martha showed me texts Michael had sent them blaming ME for turning his parents against him. Curtis mentioned something about getting a restraining order because of Michael's threatening messages. When I got home later, I found out Michael had basically cleaned us out. He'd emptied our joint checking account, maxed out both our credit cards, and even taken some of my jewelry, including my grandmother's pearls, which weren't even valuable but had sentimental meaning. Martha and Russ insisted the kids and I stay with them until things got sorted out, which felt weird but also necessary, since I was legit scared Michael might show up again. The next few days were like a nightmare with new horrible surprises every day. Martha's friend who works at Michael's firm told us Michael had apparently been investigated before for an inappropriate relationship with another employee, and the forensic accountant Curtis hired found evidence Michael had been draining our accounts for like 2 years. 2 years! I found out Russ had already contacted Michael's firm and reported everything, and Michael got put on administrative leave pending investigation. I felt guilty about ruining his career, which is insane because he ruined our entire life and stole from our children. But I still felt bad. What is wrong with me? I met with Dean, the divorce attorney, on Wednesday, and he was scary good, like intimidatingly competent. He explained that with all the evidence I'd gathered, plus Martha and Russ's support, we could get emergency financial orders to freeze whatever assets Michael hadn't already stolen, and maybe even recover some of the money. I had such mixed feelings. Relief about having support, guilt about coming between Michael and his parents, and complete terror about the future as a single mom. Then on Friday night, 5 days after the Sunday dinner disaster, Michael showed up at Martha and Russ's house, drunk. Like couldn't stand straight drunk. He was screaming about wanting to see me and the kids. Russ just calmly called the police while Martha took Chelsea and Adam to a back bedroom. Watching the police escort Michael away in handcuffs while he sobbed and screamed about how I ruined his life was when it finally hit me. There is no going back. This is really happening. My marriage is over. Edit. A lot of people are asking about the restraining order. Yes, we got a temporary one after the drunk incident at Martha and Russ's. The hearing for the permanent one is next week. Edit 2. To everyone asking if the kids have talked to Michael, Chelsea refuses to speak to him at all. She blocked his number and deleted all their photos together from her Instagram. Adam tried calling him once, but Michael didn't answer. I think he was too drunk. Now for the second update. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who commented and sent messages after my last post. I seriously wasn't expecting that support, and it's been one of the few things keeping me going. So it's been almost 3 weeks since everything blew up at Sunday dinner, and Michael showed up drunk at Martha and Russ's place. Things have gotten so much worse since then, which I didn't even think was possible. Like, every time I think things can't get worse, they do. After the whole drunk incident where the police took Michael away, we got a temporary restraining order. The hearing for the permanent one was last week, and thankfully the judge granted it after seeing all the threatening texts and the police report from that night. It's for me and both kids, which Chelsea was relieved about because she really doesn't want to see him right now. Dean is seriously worth whatever ridiculous hourly rate he charges. He managed to get the court to freeze Michael's remaining assets and accounts, which honestly wasn't much since he'd already cleaned most things out. But at least it stops him from doing more damage. Martha and Russ found us this rental house about 15 minutes from our old place, and they insisted on paying the security deposit and first 3 months' rent. I tried to refuse, but Martha literally started crying when I protested, saying she wanted to help. And what was I supposed to say to that? It's a nice little 3-bedroom in the same school district, so the kids didn't have to switch schools in the middle of all this. When we were packing up our stuff from the house, which by the way we might lose because of something I'll get to in a minute, I found my grandmother's old recipe box in the back of a kitchen cabinet. I was wrapped up in newspaper for some reason, and I realized Michael had taken the silver measuring spoons that have been in my family for 3 generations. I literally sat on the kitchen floor sobbing like an idiot for half an hour while Chelsea awkwardly patted my back. He pawned them. We found the receipt later for $75. I'm honestly handling everything fine though. Really. I mean, I've only forgotten to pick Adam up from soccer practice twice in 1 week, and the fact that I've lost 9 pounds and can't sleep more than 3 hours without waking up in a panic is totally normal, right? My friend Diane keeps trying to get me to take anti-anxiety meds, but I'm fine. I'm fine. So remember how Michael worked at that financial planning firm? Well, they moved from putting him on administrative leave to full-on firing him after their internal investigation. Turns out the affair with Natasha was just the start. He's been misleading clients, and they're doing a full audit because they think he might have been misappropriating their funds too, not just ours. His boss called me personally to apologize and ask some questions. That was awkward. Okay, but here's where it gets even worse, if you can believe it. The forensic accountant found out that Michael took out a second mortgage on our house. Without my knowledge, with my signature that he forged. I'm not kidding. I never signed anything. The bank is now investigating for fraud, and there's talk of criminal charges, and I can't even process that my husband might go to actual jail. Like, what do I tell the kids? Sorry, your dad is a criminal who stole your college money and committed fraud. Michael keeps trying to contact me despite the restraining order. He sent messages through mutual friends, who promptly showed them to me and then blocked him. Had flowers delivered with notes about how sorry he is and how he'll make everything right. Yeah, right. And he even tried to get Chelsea to meet him secretly. She showed me the texts and was so angry she threw her phone across the room. We had to get the screen fixed, add it to Michael's tab. I think he's genuinely sorry and realizes how badly he messed up. But sorry doesn't unsteal $145,000 from our kids or unforge my signature on mortgage documents. Sorry doesn't erase the 2 years of lying and cheating with his assistant, who by the way got fired too. Turns out the company has strict policies about relationships between managers and their direct reports. Who knew? Martha and Russ have been absolute saints through all of this. They come over for dinner 3 times a week, Martha helped Chelsea with her college interviews, and Russ has been teaching Adam to play chess. Michael always promised he'd teach Adam chess, but never had time. Now we know what he was busy doing instead. Watching Russ patiently explaining chess moves to Adam made me realize just how many family moments Michael has missed over the years because of work emergencies. The look on Adam's face when he finally understood how the knight's move was really sad. That should have been his dad. The social fallout has been interesting. Some of our couple friends immediately took Michael's side, Brian and Tessa, who I thought were my friends first, but then switched back when they heard about the college fund theft. Others have been amazing, dropping off meals, offering to take the kids for an afternoon so I could meet with lawyers, stuff like that. It's weird finding out who your real friends are at 42. I've also reconnected with some of my old accounting colleagues. And guess what? I have an actual job interview next week. It's for a part-time position at a small local firm, which would be perfect for easing back in after 15 plus years of being a SOM. I'm terrified they'll think my skills are completely outdated, but also determined to rebuild some financial independence. I can't rely on Martha and Russ forever, as amazing as they've been. But anyway, the reason I'm posting this update now is because of what happened at Sunday dinner yesterday. I swear to God, if someone tried to put this in a movie script, producers would reject it for being too unrealistic. We went to Martha and Russ's house like we've been doing since everything blew up. It's become our new normal, I guess. When we pulled into the driveway, there was an unfamiliar car parked next to Martha's Mercedes. Chelsea immediately tensed up and asked if her dad was there, and I promised her that Martha and Russ would never violate the restraining order. When we went inside, there were two men in suits sitting in the living room with Martha and Russ. Martha rushed over to us looking super anxious and explained they were investigators from the State Financial Regulatory Board. Russ said they'd discovered something I needed to hear immediately. The investigators introduced themselves and explained they'd been building a case against Michael. Then one of them said they had evidence Michael was planning to flee the country. Like, they had documentation of recently purchased one-way tickets to some place that doesn't extradite to the US. I was completely shocked, because I honestly thought Michael was staying with his friend Doug locally. Martha asked Chelsea to take Adam to the kitchen where dinner was warming, and just as they were leaving, the doorbell rang. Russ answered the door, and there was Michael, looking like absolute hell. Unshaved, wrinkled clothes, bloodshot eyes. He pushed past Russ into the foyer and then froze when he saw the investigators. Russ reminded Michael about the restraining order, but Michael ignored him and focused on me, demanding to know what I'd told these people. The first investigator identified himself officially and asked Michael to sit down, but Michael refused and accused me of trying to frame him. For what? The crimes he committed? The second investigator started reading Michael his rights, and Michael lunged at me, yelling about how I'd ruined his life. Russ jumped between us while the investigators moved to restrain him. Martha yelled for the kids to stay in the kitchen, and then Michael started crying and begging his parents to help him. Russ told him they were helping by making sure justice was served. Then, the investigators explained all the charges Michael was facing: fraud, embezzlement, theft, forgery. The list went on and on. As they were taking him out, Michael kept looking back at me with this expression I can't even describe, like hatred and desperation and fear all mixed together. I honestly don't know if I'll ever get that image out of my head. This morning I woke up to dozens of missed calls and messages. Michael's been denied bail because he's a flight risk. The divorce proceedings are being expedited given the circumstances, and I got the job! They called first thing this morning after one of the partners pulled some strings to fast-track my interview from next week to today. So here I am, sitting in our little rental kitchen, drinking coffee from a mug Martha gave me. It says, "Nevertheless, she persisted, trying to process how my husband of nearly 20 years is in jail and facing serious criminal charges. The trusts Martha and Russ set up for the kids will fully fund their college educations, which is such a relief. We're still doing Sunday dinners, but now they're actually nice. There's laughter and real conversations instead of Michael dominating every discussion with work stories that I now realize were probably made up to cover his affair. Adam is still struggling, though. Last night he asked me if Dad would be home for his birthday next month, and I had no idea what to tell him. Despite everything, He still loves his father and sometimes defends him or talks about reconciliation. Chelsea, on the other hand, has removed every photo with Michael from her room and refuses to even hear his name. I never would have imagined that my in-laws would become my strongest allies in all this. Martha texted me yesterday saying, "You've always been more of a daughter to me than Michael was a son," which, wow, I'm still processing that. For the first time in weeks, I feel like maybe, possibly, I might be okay eventually.